Hello, and welcome to Small Scale Chatter.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome everyone as well. I see Paul in the comments there giving us a wave. Hello. Welcome. So yes, this is Small Scale Chatter, our miniatures community web show and podcast. It is available every other Wednesday live on Facebook and YouTube, and available to download as a video on demand after the show and as a podcast on the following Monday. You can help the adventure by joining us at patreon.com/geekgirlbw and join and help us to reach our first goal, which is to help to pay for super awesome, amazing Podbean subscriptions so that I can do super cool things with the podcast. Yes, but welcome. So I have a new guest with me today.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's quite a while. I'm very excited to talk to you.
Oh, me too.
Yay. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here today.
Okay, so my name's Jess. A little bit about myself. So I have been actually designing games, probably it's coming on for 2 years now. So 2 years ago, then I started designing one game, which I successfully kickstarted. Yay! Yay! But I still think of myself more as being a general political activist. So I have worked around politics for quite a time. So I did research in Parliament for a while, worked as a civil servant for a while, did lots of redrawing boundary maps. So, good on the cartography. Then went to work for Quakers in Britain, where I was basically a lobbyist. So, that was really good. So basically lobbying for social justice issues. So I'm still thinking of myself as being a social justice issue people, know lots about elections, but I'm wanting to bring that into games. So I'm trying to sort of combine these worlds that I'm part of into one. So I'm here really mainly to talk about Library Labyrinth, which is the game that I'm currently designing, not by myself. There's a whole team of us designing it, which brings its own challenges, but also the own brilliant things to make it work better. So yeah, it's really exciting, and I'm feeling excited about it.
Yeah.
Oh yes, we have a Kickstarter pre-launch page. There it is. So you can get a sense of it. The Kickstarter page is looking a little bit brown at the moment. I think we need to put a new image up. It's a good image, but it's like dark libraryness. So yeah, we need to find a slightly, a slightly more light style perhaps for that. Dark shelves.
When is it coming to Kickstarter as well?
So the date I put on there was right at the beginning of July. I think it might be the 5th of July, but I've actually forgotten. So I probably need to log back into the Kickstarter to work that out. This is the thing, you go quick pre-launch. So basically the start of July is when it's going to be live. And it's a really scary time, that pre-launch time, when you're trying to work out whether you've done enough, whether it's actually ready, because it's never going to be ready. Yeah. Plus for someone like me, we're not a big company with a perfect game. We're so we're kickstarting it, but we're going to kickstart it and say, we haven't got all the artwork done. We're still tweaking this bit and this bit. We kind of need to actually know whether people want it before we go much further.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, that's what Kickstarter's there for. Like people that come in with the whole game already developed. It's like, well, why do you need this Kickstarter?
Yeah, exactly. You just need a pre-order system. We have a proper, shoestring budget.
Yes.
There's a tiny bit of money in the account, like a few £100 from the previous game, but that's it. And that's basically like, okay, well, there's 5 of us who are really invested in this now. How are we going to actually make this work? So
tell me about the 5 of you then, because you're all women.
We're all women.
And I want to know why that's. I mean, I know why that's important, but tell us, why is that important for the project and for just board game design in general?
Yeah, well, I mean, so this is a game where, so it's important because there aren't enough of us. Looking across, board games in general, there are not enough women. There are not enough people of color. There are not enough people who are not, well, essentially male, white, cis, normally American, middle-aged, middle class. This is an expensive hobby. And so actually, this feels really weird that it's doing something radical simply by being female. And that doesn't, that this is somebody coming from politics. I'm like, I am in a political world which can be incredibly male and incredibly aggressive and combative, but it still feels weird to be an all-female team. So we're definitely, pushing that out there and saying, actually, we're making, firstly, we're making the game that we want to see. We're making the game that we want. Yeah, exactly. Male, pale, and stale. It goes quite across many industries, but also American. And, that's not us. We're all British team. But also, I mean, we are, we come from mixed heritages. So I am quite firmly white. But we have one person on the team who's British Chinese. We have one person who's British Caribbean, so they're bringing those heritages as well, which is particularly useful, because we're making a game which is about characters from literature, characters from history around the world. We don't want this to be an all white thing. So it's important that we reach out beyond the norms. We want to sort of gently challenge the norms.
I like it. I don't know if you know Annie from Bad Squiddo Games. She was like my first.
I saw you had her on this, and I was like, she seems cool. Love the pigtails as well.
She's amazing. Like, before we became friends, I was a huge just fangirl of her for like kicking down doors and saying, actually, you know what? Women should be represented in miniatures, and we should also not be wearing chainmail bikinis. Like, we can wear real clothes too.
The artwork sometimes, you look at the cover of a box and it's like, what is this going on? Where are the actual proper women? Where are they wearing proper clothes for a start? I am not going into that. Dungeons are cold and dark. If I'm going in the dungeon, I would like some wellies, please. I'd like some wellies, not with heels. No heels on my wellies. And I'd also like something big, like a big fur coat. You can do some cool blowing in the wind thing. I don't mind the blowing in the wind. But
it's a heroic waft, but
exactly. I could have this like huge cloak. It could be doing some things up there. But plus proper support would be nice.
Yes.
Chainmail bras, no. But proper
you can't run up to a monster with a chainmail bikini.
Exactly. You can't do it with a chainmail bikini. What I want is something which has got, some proper, some steel bones in it or something, real support. Come on, I want proper corsets in these.
Yes. Right, let's bring it back to the game, shall we? So you mentioned that you want to try and merge like your two sort of worlds together, this sort of the world of activism and politics and the world of gaming. How are you trying to do that?
So
how are you going to do
it? How am I doing it in general, or how am I doing in this game? Let's cover both.
Yes.
So my first game was a Kickstarter, which was called Disarm the Base, which was about breaking into a military base in order to disarm the warplanes, which was based upon something which some friends of mine had actually done. There's a disclaimer at the start of the rulebook. So they obviously got caught. The object was, yes, to break in, and had they got to the warplanes, they did have a crowbar, but it was much more about getting caught, being able to have the trial, being able to to make their points heard, having newspapers write it up, which they did very successfully. They got acquitted, but that was a really interesting thing, and I thought, right, let's make this into a game. Let's have a fairly straightforward, simple cooperative game, which was about creeping around a base and breaking in. really good. I was really pleased with how that turned out. But then I sort of went from there. Okay, what do we do next? And that's when I started to ask people I know and say, hang on, where am I going to go? One idea was to do something about democracy, which turned out to be a huge thing. I mean, that's something I know fairly well. But in games, it's really quite difficult to do. You either end up doing some kind of big civilization game. The other way would be to do something about electoral systems. And I quickly found, well, there's a reason we have first past the post in this country, and it's because it's really easy to score. So the problem was that I was trying to promote a system which was difficult to score. And I'm like, that's not going to work in a game. Well, maybe it will, but I have to think about it further.
Yeah.
There are some other things I'm doing around, perhaps, so we have some plans to do some little postcard games, which are about environmental themes, looking at games on a greetings card. There's one I've got at the moment, which is about pushing plastic around the ocean. But those are all little side projects, which I'm trying not to get sucked into, because the main thing really is Library Labyrinth, which is what we've called this game, which is about gently and subtly promoting these role models. So it's a game which features 100 female role models. They are all real in some way. Some of them are real fictional characters. Some of them really lived. So it's a real mix there. But the idea is, this game is about being in a library. So you're in a library. You're in sort of the furthest room from the door, I suppose. Something strange is happening. The books have started opening, and literary horrors have come out of the books. So basically, over there, you've got Dracula, whereas in that corner, you've got, in that corner, you've got the Triffids, and you're like, okay, how do you get out there? You've got Cerberus over there, and you're like, we've got to do something. We've got to put them back in their books. So you are running around the library. You yourselves, the character, don't have any specific skills. What you do have, you have the ability to take books off the shelves. So you take a book off the shelf, you open the book, then out pops one of these wonderful characters. So you open
one of them as well.
Yeah. So you open a book which is historic leaders, you get Enhudwana. Let me say that again. Enhudwana. I've been practicing. And, that's one of the options there. So you get those sort of characters. You might open another one. You get Mary Seacole, who was a nurse during the Crimean War. And, you get all these exciting characters. You open another one. You might get the Queen of Sheba. You might get the Lady of Shalott. You might be opening some poetry and get the Lady of Shalott. You might open all sorts of exciting books. There are some which people would probably know very well. So you might get Elizabeth Bennet. You might get Becky Sharp, But the idea was that you have all these different characters sort of creeping along. So you might be looking at the Triffids and you're like, well, in one hand, I've got Heidi. And in the other hand, I've got Joan of Arc. Can Heidi and Joan of Arc together defeat the Triffids? Which turns out that they can, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they could.
I think they could. Yeah. But each character has certain skills. The horrors have certain skills. Basically, you're matching it. So it's a dungeon crawler, but it's a diceless dungeon crawler. You're matching the skills, which means sometimes you need to take a card, sometimes you need to put one back. There's a discard trolley, which you can get more out of. Basically, there are so many literary puns you can make here. We've got a card where you get extra turns because you're all on the same page. So you're working really well together, so you get extra turns. We've got a book bag where you could pick up a bag, and so that means you can carry an additional book. You've also got random things where some of them have some of the characters can use particular items which you might find in the library. So you're wandering around, you might find a mirror which you can defeat Dracula with, because Dracula doesn't like mirrors. So clearly Mina Harker can use that, but the Lady of Shalott can also use a mirror. So yeah. So basically that's the game. We've been doing a lot of play testing. We've been doing a lot of trying to work out exactly the levels. There's an awful lot of balancing here, So I've got these huge spreadsheets, and I'm like, okay, if these cards all have these skills, and these people do this, and this literary horror is this, and there's, statistically, that means that when you pick up from this book stack, you are more likely to get. And it's just, yeah.
Ah, math.
So much maths. So much of it.
So how did you actually get into, I'd like to talk a little bit actually about like board game design and how you got into making board games. I stole some pictures off your Twitter. Which I wanted to show off as well. This is sort of
this is the basic mechanic of it. These are not going to be the final artwork. This is not our artist Sam. This is me, so it's a bit rubbish. But yeah, this is the basic mechanic. You match the skills of your team to defeat these dangers you've got there. So you've got so let's look down at the bottom. You've got fire, which is logic, speed, and bravery. So basically, you're looking there and you're going, okay, who's got the relevant skills? So you've got Bobby from the Railway Children, who's got bravery, but doesn't have speed, whereas the Chevalier d'Eon, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not. Oh yeah, that's a slightly better version where so that's not the final version of that, but there's another version a bit further on. But that's how some of the background art is developing. So here you've actually got 3 literary characters and 3 real historical characters, which works quite well. So yeah. So yes, you can match them up to defeat those dangers, and that's the basic mechanic at the root of it.
How did you go from politics to saying, I'm going to design board games? It seems wildly difficult. Not difficult, but they did sound difficult as well.
Yeah. So I love board games. So I've always loved board games. I think, I used to play a lot of card games when I was younger. Quite a few of my memories from being a teenager would be sitting down and playing a lot of Rummy, for example, with my dad. We used to play Rummy 500, which is where you play multiple rounds of Rummy, but you can pick up the whole discard pile. But you have to play enough games to get to a score of 500, which is generally about 4 or 5 games, but you can have negative points as well. So, I quite like that version of Rummy. Yeah. So those kind of classic card games, a bit of whist, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Probably got into playing things like Carcassonne during university. So, post-university, that was quite a frequent activity, to play some Carcassonne, to be sitting there, with a bit of dinner, a glass of wine. You got your pudding after dinner or something, playing a game. That was really nice. Which kind of just grew, So I don't consider myself to have an extensive board game collection, but it's fairly big compared to many people, so it's not like I've got hundreds of thousands, but there are probably 20 or 30 games that we sort of regularly play, and then a few more which are perhaps left and forgotten. There are a couple of copies of Hero Quest up there at the top of the shelf. We've also got Dragon Lance. Oh, you do not want to see the quality of these boxes. They have been sat on, and some. I mean, actually, that copy of Hero Quest belongs to my other half, and there are some very badly painted minis from when he was Oh, I don't know what age he was when he was doing those. So yeah, yeah, and plus things like the choose your own adventure books, so I always really loved them. So that was kind of the route in, multiple small routes. So yeah, so actually going from that to, well, I'm gonna make this into a board game. I think the theme of Disarm the Base, the breaking into the military base, I think that was one of the catalysts, because 2 years ago, then I decided that I was going to step back from my full-time job, do some freelance work. Plus I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, so it was actually, the kind of like, ooh, I'll go back after maternity leave for a little bit, and then, and then I was like, let's step back. And actually doing a board game fitted in with that, but didn't actually, well, that actually took up all my free time then. So I don't know what I was doing. Really, in retrospect, I'm like, how did I think that was a good decision time-wise? Oh, wow.
So Library Labyrinth, as you said, has 100 women and non-binary characters in it. And how do you, and obviously from very different cultures and ethnicities, how do you go about making sure that you are sensitive to those cultures and time periods as well?
So we have some sensitivity readers lined up to help us with this. I mean, for a start, so we're going on the principle that, firstly, we're not making anything up from scratch. These are people who already exist. Some of them exist in a fictional way. Some of them exist in a, in a real, historical way. So the not making anything up does help us there. But it by no means takes away the issue, because there's still a representation that we're doing. So we have some people lined up to be sensitivity readers, to be cultural consultants, plus some to be less cultural, more the sort of identity consultants, I suppose you'd call them. So, for example, there is going to be at least one trans woman included. And that is something which I personally cannot speak to. So we need to make sure that the picture there, so there was one, the example you just showed that had a trans woman on it. So the Chevalier d'Ion, she is probably a trans woman. We don't exactly know, because she died in, let me see, it'll say somewhere, she died, several hundreds of years ago, so we're not 100% sure, how she would have identified. But, oh yes, here, I've got a little card here. Warrior, 1728 to 1810 in France. But it's going to be really important that we get that picture right. Because we have some facts, sure, we have the date of birth, the date of death, we have the various medals she got, we have the roles she performed, but getting the picture right is going to be really important. So yeah, we will absolutely be taking advice on that, from people. There's also a bit of an issue around which books we include, because we obviously don't want this to be a just white library. But when you look at the written literary tradition, it tends to come from 2 main places. Well, 3, I suppose. So firstly, we can only use books which are no longer in copyright, which means a lot of the more modern books are out, of course. But we tend to get books from 3 main places. One would be, so North America has a fairly strong literary tradition, written literary tradition. Europe, of course, has a fairly strong written literary tradition. Quite a lot of the Middle East has a really strong tradition, but there's a bit of a gap, so it's Great if you go way back, and we've got a whole load of characters from hundreds and thousands of years ago, but not from a couple of hundred years ago. The other place would be Japan's got a really strong literary tradition. So's China. But if you look at Africa, there is much less that is written down in that sense.
Yeah.
So it's harder to pinpoint it and say, okay, right, we're going to take this character from this book. So that's much more cultural, much more in folk tales, which for us means that we have to be absolutely clear that those would have to be kind of given to us. We'd have to have permission from somebody who is from that culture, to use them. Someone would have to be able to say, okay, this is something which I like and know, and I would like it to be included, rather than us just going, oh yeah, we like that. That seems good.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely a real balance to be had. But when you look at the historical women, then they actually tend to come mainly from the Middle East, because that is where we have the longest historical records. We've got a lot of people from Mesopotamia, for example. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge, which is going to involve quite a lot of people. So the group, we're a really sort of flexible team, and who the team includes and who it doesn't shifts on a regular basis. And I suspect by the end of this, when you open up the rule book and you'll be like, here are the, here's the core team, and then here are the contributors, and it'll be like, oh, okay, right, that's a lot of names. There are going to be a lot of people where they will be taking part in some way. We want this to be not quite open source, but almost. We want people to come and help us, rather than it being something where we're really sort of keeping it tight. Yeah.
Well, that sounds excellent. Yes, it does. Well, so you were at Protospiel last weekend, weren't you? So that's where you do the testing of prototypes of games to make sure that they're running right, mechanics are going okay. How did it go?
It went quite well. Physically, I was here in front of my computer, but oh my goodness, my ears hurt by the end of it. I'm like, I've got headphones on, I've got, plus, though it was a 24/7 thing, about 2/3 of the people there were American. So my time zones got completely skewed. But I'm quite a lock. So I would be getting up at a normal time. Plus I've got small kids. So, they were, so 6 o'clock is my normal wake up time and has been for several years now. So I'd get up and I'd be like, okay, right, let me log on. And I'd be logging on at, 7 in the morning, and there would be people there going, it's 3:30 in the morning here. I'm like, it's 7:30 here. I've just had pancakes for breakfast. And they'd be like, I'm going to bed soon. But there was actually a really good time there. There was a really good crossover where, the real night owls in the States would still be up. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm here. It was really good, though. It was really fun. And one of the benefits to doing it online really is that you can, firstly, you can reach out to a whole load of different people, people who have really different ideas. And one of the things we were testing was how it worked against, so this is a cooperative game. We were looking at the alpha gamer problem, how it worked with people trying to sort of take over the game, which does often happen. The other thing was that we could change things pretty much instantly. So Saturday afternoon, then I was here and I was like, okay, I'm going to step out of Protospiel for a while. Then I'm going to go back to my computer and I'm just going to change all of these things in Tabletop Simulator. So we actually went in with a reworked ending for it, which actually worked really well. And we've now tested that. I mean, well, actually, we had two more tests of it. And then we did a whole load of testing. Yesterday morning and also Monday morning. And it actually works really, really well. So it got us to that point. Yay! Thank you for playtesters. playtesting is amazing. You know, it's one of those things that there are so many blind spots that one person will have, you know, well, not just one person, you know, one team, you know, so we were playtesting, and we had a few people who were regular playtesters, but that kind of meant we'd fall into the same way of doing it every time. So it was really useful to see people who were not the type of people who would have reached out to us, playing in a much more aggressive style and going, okay, yeah, we haven't solved the alpha gamer problem.
No. I don't think anyone ever will.
No one will, no. You know, but it was really useful to see how it could possibly work there. So
Oh, excellent. So it's also a Facebook group, I don't know if you know, called Desperately Seeking Playtesters.
I don't know, but now I do.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
so
going to be my first action. I'm going to be like, right, I need more. There's there's a Discord server as well. There's the virtual playtesting server, which I have been lurking on for a while and haven't actually used much. So I need to actually use it.
Yeah, the Facebook group's very nice. It's quite new, only started up during just before Christmas. So,
cool. Yeah,
we're
great.
on there with stuff. Yeah, but yeah, there you go. I've helped. Yay!
Yay! You have.
Okay.
You have.
So, I'm sure the people watching and listening are like, just a minute, Anjuli. This is a show about miniatures. What are you doing talking about board games? And to them, I say, shush, it's my show. I can talk about whatever I like. But also, I know that when you like first had the idea of the game, it was going to be miniatures as well within it. And since then, you sort of moved more towards the idea of meeples. And I just wanted to sort of pick your brain about that a bit. Why did you go from miniatures to meeples? Let's talk some pros and cons about them.
Yeah, I mean, so there are several different things here, and one is simple resources. You know, do we have enough time to be looking at sculpting little miniatures? And you know, miniatures can really make a game, but you know, do we have the time to do that? The other thing is that we're looking at this and we're like, oh, we have 100. We have 100 book characters, and people can have multiple books in their hands. So, you know, those miniatures wouldn't fit on the board. I mean, you know, firstly, there'd be 100 of them, and you'd be like, what? Which one are we having there? We did think about whether we should just do the literary horrors, you know, the monsters that come out. And I mean, so we have different views on this, and this is part of working on a team, you know, because we were thinking, how would we make that work? Because at the moment we've got a tile which you flip over, and we're already trying to work out how on earth we put the things that you need to beat that horror around the tile. You know, because we want something that looks really great. You know, we want something where it's like, bam, that's a basilisk, or you know, wow, that's a portal. You know, so we've got something that's like, wow, you know, that's a really good picture. Where is the thing going to go that says how you beat this thing? Then we're like, okay, well, if you put a miniature on top of it, or, you know, what are we going to do? Are we going to do it around the outside? So there are some real logistical things. The third thing that we were thinking about was, what if we make the player pieces miniatures? But then the question comes up, what would they be miniatures of? Because you as the character don't have any qualities, you know, well, you know, not any qualities as such, you know, but
within
it's not
the game.
Like, So if you think about something like Pandemic, you know, then you've got your individual skills that you've got. You know, one of you is the exactly. One of you is the scientist. One of you is the medic. One of you is, you know, the person who is directing others, and I can't remember what that's called. The administrator person.
Coordinator.
Exactly. Yeah, it's been a while since I've actually played standard Pandemic. We've been playing a lot of Pandemic Legacy.
I love the Legacy games. They're good.
Played Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Played it over Zoom. I tell you, that is a whole different thing. Yeah, so our neighbours recently walked the actual game round to us, because we finished it. You know, they walked the game round to us, and they were like, here's the actual game. And I'm like, oh, that's exciting. So I played an entire season, but never seeing the physical board until now. So, but yeah, that's a whole different thing. But yeah, so then we were like, okay, does will the characters you have, because then it would just be, 1 to 5 meeples, five minis. That made us think, would that just be us going down the kind of Monopoly route where, someone's the dog and someone's the top hat, but they don't mean anything?
Yeah.
So, I mean, in fact, so do get in touch and tell us what we should do on that, because there might be people who are like, no, we would like, the equivalent of the dog and the top hat. Can we do, maybe some people would like 5 different but generic women miniatures, for example. Yeah. Plus maybe some people would like the horrors to be miniatures. You then get a little board with all those, because that would still, that would still really stretch our resources. We'd have to partner with someone else to do that, I think.
Like someone to sculpt it and to get them printed and things, like even like plastic miniatures are not they're not a cheap thing to buy.
They are definitely not a cheap thing, but it might be that someone else could come along and go, hey, actually, you say you have Dracula and zombies and werewolves. As it happens, my shop does these. That would be cool, in fact.
Anyone listening?
Anyone listening with a shop that already does this stuff? Do you have a basilisk?
Also, things like, you thinking like it could be a possibility for like a stretch goal, I think, if you hit some like huge unlock.
Huge unlock thing. I'm not sure we'd want to provide it to everybody. I mean, the idea, one of the ideas we had originally was, what if there was the option to add it on? Because some people will want them and some people will not want them. There are some games I know which do just, that like to put add-ons, which doesn't actually work. So I have a copy of Subterra, for example, which is so that's a tile game, which is great, and I love Subterra. I really, really love Subterra. But the copy we've got came with a few little plastic versions for some of for the floods and the rockfall. So they're not quite miniatures, because they're only about that deep. And they don't look like they want to be painted, but they're plastic tokens rather than the cardboard tokens. But it doesn't fit with the rest of the game. The game actually, the game looks like it's supposed to be cardboard. The game is, best as cardboard. So they're just the add-ons. That is the only bad thing I have to say about Subterra, though, by the way. Subterra is great.
Plastic bits. Also, we've got so much plastic. Like sometimes, like I feel like people do it just to like bump up that board game Kickstarter a little bit, but it's like if this can be done with like cardboard, just do it with cardboard. Cheaper, recycle some cardboard and help the planet a little bit.
More sustainable. In fact, yes, that is a good argument for it. More environmentally friendly. Yes.
So Tyrannosaur said, like, have you looked into like 3D printer companies at all, and like doing it that way rather than like getting the print yourself, having someone to 3D print them if you get them sculpted and stuff? I don't know.
So when we were originally thinking about it, I know that one of the team members has so she has a 3D printer, and she was like, oh, maybe we could do these things, but we've kind of moved away from that. But let's see. Definitely 3D printing might be easier than molded stuff. Well, it would be way cheaper, I'm assuming. It is such a problem.
Throwing endless amounts of extra plastic content their way. Yes, I think it can get a bit silly at times. I mean, I know that I have backed some purely for the minis. Like I know that the game is going to be terrible. I know that the mechanics are not going to be good on it because I have bought games from the people in the past. But the minis were beautiful, so I paid for the minis. I was going to throw the rest away.
Well, that's the thing, actually. I mean, there's definitely a thing with trying to please too many audiences as well. You know, where you're like, actually, who's your audience? And we are probably going for an educational audience as well. You know, so you probably can't actually say, you probably have to try not to segment your audience too much.
Yeah, but I think if you want it to be an educational one, where bookshops would be happy to put it in their sales. It needs to be less flash and too expensive for them to buy in and then also to sell on as well.
There's definitely something about the cost of these things, because board games, they are expensive. This is a really expensive hobby. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I find that myself. My bank balance is always going, Jess, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're backing another Kickstarter. Bad idea.
Let's take my cards off of mine.
Step back from the Kickstarter.
Yes. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions that are sort of non-game specific, and then I've got a couple from social media as well. If anyone in chat wants to ask any questions, now's the time to start putting them into the chat box, because I will then bring those up.
The randomer the better. Random questions are great. We like random questions.
Do it. So which two organisations outside of your own do you know the most, would you like people to know about, and why?
Oh, hang on. Who do I... So I am chair for a political pressure group. So UD, which stands for Unlock Democracy. Why did I choose a group which had a vowel in its name? Unlock Democracy is hard to say at the best of times. And I was like, I'm live on stream. I can't say this unless I have water. So I'm chair of UD, which is a great organisation. Go and join up, which campaigns for written constitution for the UK, because we don't have one. That's an organisation I know a huge amount of people at, and it's one which is, this time last year it was at risk of taking over my life because we had no director on it and I was the chair. So suddenly it was like, oh, okay, if there's no director and there's all these other staff members going, what's happening? Guess who they ask? The chair. Yay, Unlock Democracy. Go to Unlock Democracy. So that is that's an organisation that I would like more people to know about. The organisation I'm most involved in, there's a risk that it's my daughter's school, because you walk in and you're like, well, actually this last few months, then it's been really weird because so my daughter's just started reception last September, but she went to the nursery attached as well. So I've been getting to know other parents, but you get to know them with masks on. And I'm like, I don't actually know what you really look like. And you've always been, 2 meters away from me. It's really strange. Plus, I feel constantly on the back foot, So, my daughter will come out and she'll be like, oh, this happened and so. And I'll be like, hang on, which child is this? She'll be telling me something really exciting. Maya did this and Seajoy did this and then Maisie said this. And I'm like, that's great. But, what are which children are these? Exactly. And who are their parents? And do you want to invite Adrielle round? Okay, cool. Who's Adrielle's mum? Plus, we can't actually do that for a bit. There was a wonderful window when we, there's a window when we could do that, and it was still sunny, and we could go into gardens. And now it's like, oh, okay, right, we can go into gardens, but it's not sunny that much. It's getting better though.
I got my birthday just into that, and then the week after my birthday, they closed it all down again. I was like, yes,
Yay! You managed to do it. Oh, it's just the constant lockdown, not lockdown. it's been something of a year, hasn't it?
It really has. Yes.
I have considerably more grey hair than I had before.
Yeah, me too. My sister who does my hair is always like, "Oh dear, it's like it's been a hard year, Kia."
We all have more grey hair, and a slightly increased waistline.
Yes,
slightly.
I keep my camera on my face.
Oh yeah, me too.
So a penguin walks through the door right now and is wearing a sombrero. What does he say to you, and why is he here?
He says, "What ho, chaps? Party's on me," or something like that.
Excellent.
Why is he here? I have no idea why he's here. Why is he there? The penguins thing is so thinking of penguins, there are two things about penguins I have in my mind. The reason he says "what ho," party, whatever, is so we watch quite a lot of Hey Dougie, which is a children's program, because I have small children, and they have at least one episode where they have a gang of penguins who are terribly posh, and one of them is called Boris. And the last Private Eye, or was it the issue before that, had a sketch where the Prime Minister puts on a sombrero for reasons that completely are beyond me. So I'm like, clearly these two things are related, and this penguin, basically I've lost myself at this point. I have no idea what's going on. But it all sounds terrible. I do not want Tory penguins wearing sombreros, please. Let's get rid of the Tory penguins, please.
Do it. So one question from social media is, what are your top 5 games to play?
Oh, so I mentioned Subterra earlier. Yes. That is a good game. I like that. I'm actually really into tile laying games. I do like a good tile laying game. It's probably why I liked Carcassonne so much. Yeah. So we play a fair amount of Subterra. We've just finished Pandemic Legacy Season 2. So I am really looking forward to Season 0, which we haven't played, but is apparently really good. Plus is apparently slightly... Yeah. So it's apparently a bit more about spies and things, which sounds great.
Set in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. Cluedo was one of my favourite games as a kid. So I'm like, okay, it'll be great. When I'm going around someone's house, then I will quite often take something like Dixit. I mean, actually saying that, I haven't played Dixit for a long time because I haven't been around anyone's house. But I do like a game of Dixit. That's a fairly simple game. You can go in and you can take to your parents' house and you can have, a really good thing about that.
It's very nice and pretty as well. It's nice to look at.
There are quite a few small games I've been playing recently. So I think there were a group of 3 which board game tables, I think I've got that right, brought out recently on Kickstarter, one of which was Mountain Goats.
Oh.
And I like that. I really like that. It was a small game, the sort of thing, the box is like about that deep, but it's only like that big.
I like those ones.
Exactly. Yeah, really simple, really small, and that is the sort of thing which she says, being most of the way through designing something that's much bigger. That's the sort of thing I'd like to design more of. It's a little bit tricky to do that. Something I'm really looking forward to playing, but I haven't played yet, haven't actually got yet. So we're going to play some Stuffed Fables.
Love Stuffed Fables.
I mean, yeah. So hopefully we can get to grips with it and really get the idea before my eldest, who is nearly 5, can then perhaps at some point help us out. Yeah, because I play quite a lot of storytelling games with them. Yeah,
such a good game. And the miniatures in that. So that is one that I would paint the miniatures for that game because they are adorable. There's like a little elephant.
Yeah, I've seen them and I thought that looks lovely. Well, my eldest is nearly 5. My eldest is nearly 5, and I'm like, actually, this could be something where, you know, we do it together over time. And, you know, I'm yeah. Yeah,
It's
get
like
her doing that.
Layout could take like 20-25 minutes. It's like you can do a little bit before bed. You
Yeah.
just move in the
Moving a little bit along. Yeah. Was that 5? Have I got 5 yet?
Yeah, I think that's 5. You haven't gone the
There we
best
go.
one. Top table. Yes.
Yay.
Okay, so the next one is, if you could have a game night with any other designers of games, who would it be with and why?
Oh, now. So I think it's people who seem quite cool on Twitter. It's definitely the case that on Twitter, you know, I'd say that Elizabeth Hargraves seems really cool. You know, she seems really nice. Think that Eric Lang seems really nice on Twitter.
Yes.
Just thinking, you know, but I'd actually like to have a game night with people who, you know, who are sort of just starting out, like me. You know, we could swap tips about, you know, how we're doing. I'm just thinking, Janice from Wren Games she's bringing out a game about pandas. That seems quite cool. You know, I'd love to talk to her about that. You know, the artwork seems great. So yeah. Yeah. In fact, let's have a night down the pub.
Yes.
You know, night down the pub for gaming women here in the UK.
That would be good. I would enjoy that. We have that here, so we have something like that here in Nottingham. So Nottingham is like sort of the miniatures community sort of hub.
Oh yes. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's, you know, Warhammer World, where there's Mantica here and Warlord Gaming. It's just like, it's just a huge network. And in the before times, when you could see other people, we'd have one breakfast a month where we'd all meet up together and have breakfast together within the industry. We'd all sort of talk about our upcoming projects and see if we could like collaborate on things. It was
that sounds
really,
awesome.
Really
that sounds really good. I want to have breakfast meetings. Nottingham's a bit far, so we're in Reading. You know, and Reading is not. It's not a complete, you know, whatever. But I'm not coming up for breakfast.
Yeah. We also have an evening one. So we used to have So we do one when like the first Wednesday of the month would be breakfast, and then the third Wednesday of the month would be an evening drinks in the bar type thing. So it'd be less chatty because it'd be a bit later at night, but we'd have drinks and just hang out. It was really nice. We'd still be doing like Google Hangouts, but like I can't.
It's not quite the same, is it?
No.
Those times will come back. Never fear. Those times will come back.
Right. Well, have you got anything else to plug before we come to the end? Because we're pretty close to the hour.
I'm trying to think. Is there anything else to plug? I mean, not really. Library Labyrinth's going on. Probably should definitely plug the Protospiel I went to. So it's Protospiel Online, and that is really good. Just to plug somebody else's thing, I had the best weekend. So I'm not quite sure how to find out about that, but just Google it. It's Protospiel Online. It's kind of a sort of a blue and white theme on the website somewhere. But that's really cool. Go to it. But yeah, just go check out Library Labyrinth.
Yes, and I put some links in the chat there as well for everyone.
Thank you.
So you can sign up for the newsletter and the pre-launch for Kickstarter, and also in the YouTube and the Facebook sort of info below us, there is links for your Twitter and Facebook community page.
Thank you.
Yes, so everyone can go. Yay!
Yeah, do come follow us.
Yay! Join in the discussion. So now it's just for me, I suppose, to thank my patrons for all of their help. These wonderful people: Timo, Tim, Brandon, Charlotte, Chris, Fenris Games, Cerberus Studios, Ben, David, Frankie, Gav, Hanno, Louis, Dreaming in Red, Bob, Paul, Richard, Silverglass, One Sick Bunny, Antan, and Liam. Thank you all so very much for your patronage. Your £2 to £6 a month helps so much with helping me to organise this and keeping me sane. Thank you. We're currently working towards our first goal, which is to allow me to get a monthly subscription to Podbean so I can update the podcast. It'll also allow me to add these live videos onto the podcast stream there as well, so I can get it out to more people. So yeah, we're very close. Well, we're halfway to that goal. So if you're hearing this and you think, oh, Angie's kind of cool, £2 a month, you just need to pop over to patreon.com /geekgirlbw, and there is where I am. And then I will read out your name every other week and say how awesome you are as well. So,
Yay!
yay! So, oh, is it too late for a question? No, let's do it. If not, if Aconite, okay.
What would I have?
If Aconite, so anyone who doesn't know, Aconite are the company that I work for, my 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
We write fiction set in the world of board games. So we write pandemic books and we write Arkham Horror books and Legend of the Five Rings books. So if we were to write a book for you, what would you want us to have it about? I really want to write one about disarming the
Disarm the base.
Yeah.
I think it would have to be part of the Dixit Mysterium lot with all of those pictures. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, that could be some like strange anthology of just like weird tales and just
dreamy, nightmare-y world. That would be, yeah, it's very
that would
weird.
be fun. We'd get like the authors to just pull random cards and then that's what they have to write their story on.
Oh yeah. In fact,
I like that.
That would be a some short stories. It would be a series of short stories rather than one book, probably. Cool.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Let's do that. Yeah, next time tomorrow in my marketing meeting. Anyway,
I've had a grand idea.
Exactly. Right. Well, that is it from Small Scale Chatter this week. Then, Jess, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's been great.
I've learned a lot actually about the board game design, which is like the part of board games that I don't normally get to see. So yeah, it's very educational for me, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, grand! Thank you. It's been loads of fun.
Yay! Next time. So normally we go every 2 weeks for this, but we've actually had a couple of people who've been begging me if they could come on. So next week I'll be here again on the Wednesday, and I'll be talking to My Mini Factory, who are an online sort of printing service. They're very, very cool. They're going to come on and talk about their stuff. And then the week after that, I have, I've forgotten. Someone else. Someone else.
Amazing. They're going to be cool. They're going to be amazing.
It'll be Frankie. Yes, Frankie will come on. Tabletop Tinkering. It's going to come on and talk about commission painting and modeling and sculpting and stuff. So that's really cool. Yes. Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for hanging out with us today, and I wish you all a pleasant evening. Bye.
Bye.